Hey, welcome back. I love that we're all together again in life groups in homes or wherever you're meeting at. A new life group series starting off too. I love being in your homes and I'm gathering around, and so it's so good to be together. And so this is week number 1 of our series called Influencers. It's interesting. You think about that word influencer is to be influenced. Our culture with social media and everything has kind of changed that word a little bit, influencers. Think about this. Modern day influencers are paid because they're influenced because they have so many followers, so many people who they're influencing, that they're advertising. So companies will pay them on social media or YouTube, whatever it is, pay them to sell their products. Crazy. The modern day advertising for the next generation is these influencers who are selling products online. We always have sales, we always have commercials, but they're considered influencers. Maybe you have swiped right a few times and bought something. Maybe you follow somebody online that whenever they show something like, I gotta have it. Listen, all of us have that. It may not be an influencer, but we're always influenced by something that we see. What about you? If you bought something online, listen, I just did. It's coming in the mail. I bought something about 6 months ago. It's for cereal. It's a dish that separates the milk from the cereal. I don't want soggy cereal, so you can. It's a great idea. Not here yet, so we don't know if it's going to work. I have a friend who, growing up, that every time there was an infomercial on TV, he bought it. He was the Flowbee, the one that would suck the hair and cut it. Those things. Some of you have cupboards full of things you bought on TV or anything. What's yours? I want to start with a very softball, easy question. What about you? What have you been influenced that you've bought either recently or before? Something fun or something you want to share with the group? What is something that pulled you in that you said, I gotta have it? Share that story. Hey, welcome back. Hope you shared. Maybe you have some funny stories. Maybe somebody's writing notes and say, I need to buy that too. Whatever it is, I think it's fun for us to kind of have some questions to dive into here. But influencing is like sales. These influencers, you follow them. You subscribe to them. You say, if they like it, maybe I'm going to like it. They have the same things I have. Which raises a big question. What are you following? It's a big question. All through Scripture talks about, are we following? Even Jesus to his disciples says, come and follow me. We choose who we allow to influence us. Now I get it. Things happen to us. Certain things, environment, nature, nurture, things do things. But think about your day. What do you allow most days to influence you? What do you jump onto? I just want to kind of dive into this for a second because we look at words like we look at words. They're kind of taken differently out of context when we read them in the Bible. So for instance, when Jesus goes to the disciples and he says, come follow me, come after me, I'm not sure if we go right to what he was saying or we use what's in our culture, what we know. Because in our culture, what we know is if we're on social media, we want to gain followers. We want to be an influencer. You wonder how many people are following, how many people click and like on what your picture you post or what you said. It's interesting because we subscribe to different things. And then I started thinking about this is are we thinking that in terms of that's how we follow God also? I think it kind of gets mixed up a little bit. If I were to say to you, Are you really truly following the Lord? Or are you following like we follow a celebrity? Well, you could say, well, I follow Jesus, but the choice is you might follow 100 other people too. You know what I'm saying? You might say, well, I know about him, or I follow him, or maybe for you it's a subscribe button, and maybe you're notified when there's a post. You know what I'm saying? Somebody shares something about you, maybe you're notified, or maybe something happens and you maybe, you know what I'm saying, maybe you kind of like, I see things. But when Jesus was on earth and he was talking about, come follow me, he wasn't talking about click a button and subscribe and be notified if something happens. There's something about this surrendering aspect of following Jesus Christ. The disciples actually dropped their nets and dropped their life to come after Jesus. This is a big deal for us. And as we go into this next segment, instead of just having a question, I want us to read a passage. And this passage is found in Matthew 16:24. Here's what I want us to do. I want us to read this as a group together in your study and ask the question, how does this verse look in my own life? How does this look? And so let's do that together. Welcome back. I want to read this just out loud. It says, then Jesus said to his disciples, whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. It's not just a follow, it's a call to action. It's not just drop everything, it's to pick up something. That's a big deal. It's not just to leave the nets. All the disciples, of the 12 disciples, when Jesus called them, were in their jobs or doing something, and tax collectors, and they were just said, they left it all and they followed Jesus. It reminds me of when Elijah came to Elisha and passed on his mantle, and Elisha turned around and burned the plows and burned everything and followed him. There was this moment where he goes, I'm all in. I'm pushing all the chips forward. I'm not going back to what it ever was again. I'm not going to be the same ever again. Yes, it's a moment of the heart, but it's also a moment of change where you say, when Jesus says, come and follow me, tell the disciples in the boat, you know what I'm saying, put your nets down, come follow me. He's literally saying, surrender that and carry this. Put down your nets and carry the cross. And I look at this, and then I look at the disciples. They shared meals with Jesus. They walked with Jesus. And it's one thing to be in a car with somebody. It's another thing that every place you're going, the 12 disciples spent so much time with them. They shared meals. They shared experiences. They saw miracles. All those years, they were sharing things together. They got to see Jesus even behind the curtains. They got to see him in a different way. Not everybody did. They got to hang out with Jesus past the crowds, without the crowds. They got to just spend time with him. And it has to change something in you. But then we get to people like Peter, who even after spending time with Jesus, Jesus gets, you know what I'm saying? He's following him. But when Jesus gets caught, he denies Jesus 3 times. And then you get the Judas, the one who betrayed Jesus. And you're like, what happened there? That just tells me that you could still hang out with the Messiah, but there's a different way to follow him. What influences you? What do you follow? The truth about it is, you know what I'm saying, what you follow will define you. What you follow will influence you. I look at the life of Judas, who spent time. Judas was saying, if you betray Jesus, we'll give you this money. We'll do this for you. In my heart, I think Judas was, of course, more influenced by the finances, by the money, by his own reputation than he was by Jesus. There's a decision I think we all have to make of saying, am I going to go all in? Not am I just going to lay it down, but am I going to pick up the cross and follow Jesus? Am I going to allow him to influence me? Going back to the analogy, it's like Judas is like maybe following him, pushing a button, subscribing, but not truly surrendering. How about in our own life? Are we doing that in all these areas? And so, as we close this first one off, I kind of want to leave with kind of a heavy question, and this is only going to work if we're honest. Now, I know the Christian answer is going to be like, the Lord, and I get it. But here's my question for us is saying this, is who or what do we follow that influences you? What's influencing me? What's influencing my decisions? What's influencing the way I live? What's influencing the way I think? Now, if you say the Lord, that's awesome. But there's other things in our life that have carry a weight of influence in our life. And so I just kind of want us to walk through them and just share, like, is there certain things are we allowing to influence us? And maybe they're healthy things, maybe they're not. But who or what is influencing us as we move forward with the Lord and with life? You can ask the questions.